Yeah, can you get some interest in something?
What?
Where can you get some interest in something?
Yeah.
God sakes. Oh boy, she's. It's a bigger crowd than I expected tonight.
Okay. One more minute.
It doesn't have to stay as much as that.
Yeah.
Turn us off. Okay. 7:29. All right. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, and thank you. We're seeing a lot of new faces, and it's nice to see new faces in our meeting. So for folks who have not attended one of our meetings before, we do have the agenda on the sideboard there. And the rules of and procedures for public meetings, as well as the zoning report. So feel free to pick up your copy of that so that you can follow along. I would like to, sometimes I skip around, and tonight we're starting with item B on our agenda. Matt, would you like to come forward? Matt Overbeck is our new director of the Public Works Department, and he is going to tell us about this, the seal coat bid.
All right, good evening, everybody. So we put our seal coat project out to bid. We advertised it twice on May 10th and the 17th. We received 2 bids. AMS was our lowest bidder, and their price per unit square yard was $1.57, which is actually down from the price of $1.66 a square yard a unit last year. So the total project is going to be $123,402. So I recommend that we go with AMS being the lower bidder.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Matt. Oh, just stick around for the announcements. So I'm adding an announcement that is not listed on the agenda, and it is an email that we received this evening from a resident of Tinicum Township. It reads, I just wanted to send a hearty thank you to our new road crew manager for the excellent job he and his team did repairing my road. It's the best it's looked in a long time. Our road is not the easiest to maintain, but Matt and his crew managed to make it actually drivable while keeping the rural nature of it. Thank you so very much. Sue Walsh, Groover Road, Pipersville. Matt, thank you. Okay. Now we have item A1 on our agenda, the presentation about the Irwin Cemetery with Bob Call and Kathy Auerbach.
Hi, Catherine Auerbach, Center Road. And I just wanted to sort of preamble Bob's presentation. Are you ready
Yes.
for the 250th anniversary of our country? That we will be celebrating that hopefully in 2 years. And Tinicum played an important role. Not everybody is fully aware of everything. Not every part of the country had a role in our revolution or in the 18th century or the founding of our country, but Tinicum did. And I think that's something that we want to try to take a look at and find ways to share and celebrate more. Not all areas can still kind of convey visually what it was like. Sometimes it's still a wilderness here. And Tinicum can, it has the historic buildings and the landscapes and things. It also, of course, has historic cemeteries. And what I want to say is the genuine article, the real item, the real place, the tangible aspects of buildings, cemeteries, landscapes, and things really helps to tell the story. A lot of people don't want to read a book about something, but they go there and they, wow, I can feel the feeling of history here. And with the cemeteries, we have a few that are private, as well as some that are associated with churches. So the church ones get a little more maintenance and care, or they're near a church, let's put it that way. But the ones that are private are kind of like orphans, and they're very significant. And the one we'll be discussing this evening is the Irwin Cemetery along River Road. And that is pretty much now, because the house was torn down and the barn and things, one of the more tangible aspects of the place of where the Irwins first purchased and lived, as well as the place and the people who were involved, not just with, in part, shaping our township, but also with the revolution. So we have John Irwin, who was Colonel Arthur's son, who was captured and was on a British prison ship. And if you want to have a nice evening, don't read about British prison ships, because they were horrible. So you think about the sacrifices. He ended up dying. The second son, Joseph, was the token, maybe British favoring, maybe American, but he got injured and never quite fully recuperated from his injuries in defending a ship with our ambassador going to France. And William was more of the survivor, the younger one, and others in the cemetery. So Arthur Irwin himself owned 2,500 acres in Tinicum and helped to encourage a lot of people to come live, encourage artisans to come and set up and actually then buy their properties. So he did a lot to shape our township as well. And of course, I think it's Thursday night, the Tinicum Players from Titusville, New Jersey, mostly, are going to be reenacting the assassination of Arthur Irwin, which is a very dramatic play or presentation at the Stover House in Tinicum Park. So very compelling. But the cemetery is there and it is tangible, and you see the names and you start to say, who are these people? Why? Another presently New Jersey resident also was struck by it and took upon himself to actually work to get the cemetery cleared and the walls restored. So with that, we'll ask Bob to come up and present a little more information on an amazing job that he did, just because we have something special, and we're grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Got a little show and tell board here. Took me back to school. Of course, we didn't have trifolds when I was growing up.
Yeah, that works.
Well, I don't want to cover the mic.
Oh,
Scott, can I?
yeah, maybe on the corners.
Something like.
Move the mic. Go that way, I'll bring you
Oh,
like
okay,
this way.
that moves. All right, good. Always got to make things difficult. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight. Don't want to take up a lot of time because you have very important things to discuss and cover. But my name's Bob Cull. I'm currently from Kingwood Township, New Jersey. But up until last year, I was a Tinicum resident since 2001, and made the move across the river. It was love, because the taxes aren't as good as here. My pension is taxed now, but what can I tell you? I moved for Sally. But while I was here, I realized how beautiful Tinicum is, and I appreciate the township so very much. And while I was still here in 2019, I received a call from the council executive of the Boy Scouts, Washington Crossing Council in Doylestown, who had been contacted by Shelby Labs because Robert Sukup, who lived right next to the Irwin Cemetery, was very involved in trying to keep that cemetery maintained. And at almost 90 years old, he would be out there doing things, and he was always trying to find someone to take on the responsibilities, like hoping a state would or a county or something like that. And he called our Congresswoman's office, who then sort of punted it to figured, oh, it sounds like a Boy Scout project. So sent it over to there, and then the council executive called me and said, I've got something for you to do. So I called Robert, and from there it started a whole new relationship. I got to know Robert. I got to find out, I have to say, in the 1980s, I lived in Frenchtown. Then I lived over here right on River Road next to the park. And I've always driven by that brick wall and wondered, who's in, it has to be a cemetery. Who's in there? What's it all about? But, we never stopped to find out. And once I found out about the history and the Irwins and how important they were from the area, thus Irwina, I got the bug. And so then suddenly, early in 2023, Robert passed. And a lot of us got together, and we wanted to keep moving on and do something that was, beneficial. And I did get, thankfully, I reached out to Scout troops, and I got our newest in our entire, most of the Bucks County district, got our newest all-female Boy Scout troop, Scout troop, now Scouts BSA, they're called. And I say Boy Scouts because a lot of times people don't know whether I'm talking about Girl Scouts but they volunteered to clean it up. And since then, they were so taken by it that they decided to adopt the cemetery, and they come out 2 or 3 times a year to help maintain it, grass, leaves, and things like that. And then Amy Hollander was instrumental in reaching out to the great granddaughter of Colonel Irwin, who came up from Virginia and met us all there. And Kate, her name is Kate Flaherty, and she got all the Irwin descendants from all over the country to kick in some money. And they raised about $5,400, and then Marv Woodall matched it. So we had some money to do some things. And if you see on the pictures here, there was once a huge maple tree that grew up inside the northwest corner of the cemetery, and it collapsed the wall about 30 feet. So we had enough money to take the tree down and hired masons to replace the wall because the brick had been saved for many years. And then we were able to repair 2 corners and repoint the wall. And if you go by today, you'll see it, and it's all intact. And even this Sunday, we're planning a work day to scrub the wall down to kind of get rid of the mortar haze and the excess mortar that was done when it was repointed, to kind of give it a little patina. And so we continue on, and the next will be cleaning the headstones and looking to acquire a historical plaque to put outside to let people know what it is. And that's sort of where we are. I just wanted to say, echoing Kathy's statement, that I've come to realize that of course, it's important as we all move forward in all our townships and our local governments, but we can't forget to look back. And one thing I've learned, and even now as a New Jersey citizen, that the rich cultural and historic heritage in this township is absolutely unbelievable. And I getting to know Kathy and Ethan, I've come to realize that. And, we have, like, for instance, there's the Marshall Cemetery, and Edward Marshall, who was the one who ran during the walking purchase instead of walking, and got the Lenape very ticked off because we took a lot of their great hunting lands away. And as well as in the, I don't know whether you call it Purcell or Purcell, but in that cemetery up on River Road, Hiram Purcell is buried there, and he was a Medal of Honor award, was awarded the Medal of Honor in the Civil War. So there's so much here, and I think everybody knows that, but I think it's just good that hopefully going forward in the future, we can have a, not asking Tinicum Township, of course, to ante up with money or anything like that, but perhaps somehow collaborate with volunteer groups to get the word out about the preservation, and maybe we can move forward like we did with the Irwin Cemetery to the others and keep them from just, turning into dust. That's basically it.
Bob, do you happen to have in your file the language on the tombstone of Colonel Irwin?
Yeah, actually, Amy Hollander a few years back did a wonderful it's a thing on the website, an Adobe presentation, the kind that you just scroll down. I see the same thing on the Post, and the New York Times does that. And it shows the whole cemetery, and it goes through all the graves, and there he is. He's got everything. Oh, that's it right there. Oh, great. Thank you, sir. Here you go.
Would you mind reading that? Because I think it's
That's the Colonel Irwin's stone.
Yeah.
And this, let me see the stage. This was in 1980, where you can clearly see the lettering. Now, you can't see the lettering at all. All these hundreds of years, then was passed.
And I will read it. On the 9th of June, 1791, died at Tioga Point in the county of Luzerne by the hand of an assassin, Arthur Irwin, Esquire of Bucks County, aged 65 years, whose life had been devoted to pursuits useful to his friends, to his family, and to his country. His body was conveyed to and interred in that particular ground, which in his lifetime he had pointed out, and this stone placed as well to designate the spot as to reverence his memory by his descendants. And this is here's, oh boy, here's Scott, thank you. Here's the two flat stone graves, and this one is Colonel Irwin's, and this is his son, who was interred on a British warship for 4 years in New York Harbor, who died shortly after he was released. And the rest of the family, I believe there's about, I can't remember, but about 15 graves there. Yeah, so that's
Okay.
that's all right.
See the difference, the photo in the middle has the Girl Scout troop with their wonderful leader, Christine, somebody on the left, and Robert Sukup.
And Robert here.
Robert Sukup is on the right.
Yeah.
And I know Robert would, I just hope that he's looking down and, thank you, and he appreciates, the efforts and whatnot, that we can kind of carry on his his efforts.
Yes.
And Eleanor, I'll give you this as well, because I don't want to take up any more time, but this is a letter that Kate Flaherty wrote, you know, for you.
Okay. And Kate Flaherty is the descendant of Colonel Irwin,
4 times great granddaughter of Colonel Irwin.
the 4 times great granddaughter of
Yeah.
Colonel Irwin. Okay. This is I think that we can put this letter on the website. I think we can do that. And then everyone will be able to read it at your leisure. Bob, thank you. And thank you to the Scout Troop 1920 for the work that you have all done to preserve this historic resource in our township. We really appreciate it. And I did have the honor of meeting Robert Suckup before he passed. And, you know, this became his life's work when he moved into the home where this cemetery is situated. And I'm sure he would be just thrilled. So thank you. The next announcement is regarding the mosquito control maintenance by the Bucks County Department of Health, which is scheduled to happen soon. And the time frame for this mosquito control effort will be posted on the township's website. We received a letter. We acknowledged receipt of an email at the end of May, so it will likely happen in the coming weeks.
We'll have information on what they're going to, sorry, we'll have information on what they're going to spray and where. Okay. So if people are interested in what's being sprayed, they can look it up.
And that's already on the website?
I might have been waiting for after this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have I have 2 additional announcements that are not on the agenda. The first is regarding a disease that is kind of coming into our region. It's called the beech leaf disease. And I'm sure all of you here are familiar with the emerald ash borer and the devastation that has caused on our ash trees in this region. The beech leaf disease it poses a similar threat. And there is an article about it in the Tinicum Conservancy newsletter from fall, winter of 2023. That's available on the Tinicum Conservancy's website. It's page 4 of that newsletter. And we will be also putting onto the website a link to an entity out of Rhode Island who has identified how to proactively kind of inoculate or treat your beech trees to protect them from this disease that is moving in. So we do have residents in the township who have already done this treatment to protect their beech trees on their property. And given what we've seen with the ash trees, we don't want to go through this again for another decade with another type of tree. So we will be providing that information on our website for folks who have beech trees on your property. And lastly, I just wanted to thank Diane Allison, who is present here this evening, and our Environmental Advisory Committee, because they held the part 2 of the BEST initiative this past Sunday along the Delaware River Canal off of River Road. And we had, I think there were 40 households who were there there were 2 sessions of this part 2. So thank you to the EAC, to Diane Allison, who is our local expert in everything in the natural world, and the DCNR naturalist Katie Martins also attended, and it was very well attended. If you're curious about this, there is a link on our website to the BEST initiative. There is a part 3 that will be scheduled in the near future. We will pick the date to schedule it. That date will be in the fall. So please join us. And this is, again, made possible through a mini grant offered by the or awarded by the Lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River Management Council. Okay. That is it for the announcements. We are in section 3 of the agenda, and Kurt Jenner, our township engineer, will provide us an update on the headquarters road bridge.
So my update will also go along with Scott Holbert's update following. Oh, sorry. The erosion control site plans and the GP11 permit plans are completed and ready for submission to DEP as reported last month. We are waiting to finalize the submission pending PennDOT agreement and or easements with the landowner's property where this bridge and approach structure abut. There have been some advancements made with the structural engineer, Doug Bond. We've been working with him to draft a response to preempt or alleviate any concerns that the PASHPO would have regarding architectural finishes, material types that are going to be used in the bridge to maintain the historic status. So at that point, we're pretty much ready to go, and we're not at a point where we feel that the permitting is going to jeopardize the time schedule. And since we're working on the architectural plans, Doug Bond's offices, everything on that end still looks to be on schedule.
Okay.
I mean, Kurt sort of explained the substance of it, the agreements he talked about. I'm just the one in the response. I'm the one working on it with him. So there's not much more for me to add beyond from a substantive standpoint than what Kurt so greatly said. Thank you, Kurt. Made my life easy.
So given that we have the additional information from Doug Bond regarding the materials to be used to satisfy the questions raised by the Historical Commission, is there a reason why we wouldn't submit the GP11 permit at this time?
The only thing that where I wasn't pushing to make the submission is because at this point in time, there is not a solid agreement linking the township to that permit application. And since there already are issued permits on the PennDOT project. So my feeling was that once we make a submission, DP is going to realize we already have a permit on this obstruction that differs from what you're proposing and potentially could cause backlog and delay from a permitting standpoint. Because they're not going to issue multiple permits in the same project area.
I understand that. Kurt, do you think that if we were to attach the forms reflecting the intended term back from PennDOT, that would clear up any issues?
I could definitely submit that, but I don't know that would 100% give the township standing to submit for that structure without having the easements and or the PennDOT agreement in place. I mean, PennDOT may actually be the ones to have to repeal those existing permits to allow for this permit submission if we don't have that documentation. So I just, since it didn't seem to be time critical, I did not do that at this point in time, but I could be flexible and whatever the township wants to do, I could do.
And with the PennDOT agreement, it's sometime this month, it's getting completed. You know, we're working on the draft with PennDOT right now. But all the timelines they told me, and in speaking with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network with regards to their prior litigation issues, is that this will all be done before the end of the month on the PennDOT side.
Okay, so then Rich and John, are we comfortable just sitting on the GP11 permit for now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. And thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
D, Golden Pheasant Bridge update.
So it might be a good way to segue to the chief for section 1A, because that will kind of lead into the meeting that was held with PennDOT, myself and Board of Supervisors.
Sure. Chief Madden, would you like to come up? So do you have the agenda in front of you?
I do.
Okay, so can you discuss the, and you might need to bring the mic towards you, but can you discuss the accident history here with the Golden Pheasant Bridge that was prepared in preparation for our meeting with PennDOT?
Yeah, so I provided the Board of Supervisors with a letter just kind of detailing, when the bridge was closed, when it was reopened, the dates of the accidents after the reopening. And some of the steps that we had made to try and improve the truck traffic. I had also sent, a memo back from 2022 where I went over the bridge strikes back from 2014 all the way through 2021.
Okay. Can you just summarize what's been happening there we have a lot of new faces here tonight.
Sure, we've had a lot of increase in tractor trailers on River Road. And so the Golden Pheasant Bridge had been struck multiple times over and over again until finally the wing wall collapsed and they closed the bridge for about 3 months to repair it. After it was opened, shortly thereafter, like 3 weeks, it kept getting hit over and over again. That's when we reached out to PennDOT to try and take steps to see what we could do because what we've done so far isn't working.
Okay. And then Kurt, do you have the summary from the meeting that we had?
Yes,
What was the May 28th?
May 20th.
May 20th. Okay,
Yeah, so I didn't know if you want me to read through every item or
just a summary.
a quick, I'll try to summarize it. So the main concern was the accidents and the closures on the bridge, and PennDOT had approached the township with a plan to, with a signal plan that they wanted the township to maintain and potentially, and we recently found out they also said, we designed this signal plan that we think is going to be a good temporary solution. By the way, the township needs to obtain the easements where the equipment is going to be located, which is on private properties. So the meeting was to try to get an understanding of what PennDOT was asking of the township and also for the township to find out what PennDOT's stance was and where they were at with this design. And the summary pretty much will explain that PennDOT is still in preliminary stages with their design. The easement information, the location of all the signals that they're proposing was kind of based off of a quick GIS study, not really on the ground survey work. So PennDOT had expressed to the township that they were going to proceed with that design. They also indicated that there was a new purpose and needs statement. And I believe their plan at that time, I know there was another meeting after this meeting that I was not included on. But my understanding was that PennDOT was looking to keep the same structure alignment, but to signal it better to aid in better flow of traffic. But the caveat is they were going to look into truck restrictions. They were going to fix signage, even in New Jersey, to help advise trucks before they get to a point where they can't turn around and get down to the bridge. And in reading the chief's statement, quite a few of the trucks that were heading to that bridge had trailers that were over 45 feet, which are already restricted, so should not be using that road. There were other things in the meeting where PennDOT is going to follow up with the GPS service company to make sure this does not show up as an accessible route for trucks. And PennDOT was also going to provide a list and a map to the township of any restrictions and signage that is in place that they have documented, so that the township, we're looking into things on our end so that we could collaborate and potentially come up with help with a solution. Pretty much summarizes everything, I think, unless you think there's something I missed.
So this all happened on May 20th, the meeting with PennDOT. Have we received any follow-up from them?
I received one phone call from PennDOT and they stated that they would consider lowering the restriction to 40 feet. My personal opinion is that I don't think that would change anything. If they're ignoring the 45-foot restriction, they're going to ignore the 40-foot restriction. I think we need to look at a different option.
Okay. So what are our next steps?
I guess the township would have to decide if they're going to go with the traffic lights at the bridge, correct?
I still have a question on the easement, excuse me. what are we talking about here? Do they give you any indication of what the easements are? I thought that they have some right of ways off of that road that's already existing.
They do, but these, where they needed to put the equipment was outside of the right of ways on the private property.
Why is that? Is the right of ways about 7 feet off of the pavement roughly?
In certain areas, yeah, it's 33 feet wide total.
Right,
Um,
with the right of way.
centered on the
And-
roadway.
And the road is what? What would you say that is?
I'm not sure offhand what the dimensions are, but
Do you have an idea, chief? Okay, so can we maybe assume that it might be about 6 to 7 feet off of the
if it's
pavement?
20, yeah, if it's a 20 feet roadway.
Yeah.
Which I think would be
It's about 19
tight,
feet.
yeah.
It's 19 feet?
Yeah.
So we're talking 7 feet at least on either side.
So, yeah,
Wouldn't that be sufficient enough to put up a traffic signal?
normally you need to have at least 2 feet of clear zone beyond a cartway. To put any kind of facilities, but they would also, the other issue is they didn't actually survey any of the property boundaries or the easement locations yet. So they were going to, when we spoke to them, they were going to finalize this information and try to give us a more definitive easement area. But the other issue is they claim that right now the bridge is in good condition. They're not looking to change the
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
But they are looking into a permanent solution for the bridge, which I think has to do with signals. And a concern I expressed is if we're going to have to get easements, it would make sense to do that design work up front to put the equipment in a permanent easement, especially since they still have to do survey work. But the catch is, they said that would take some additional time for them to design.
Can we put any more additional pressure on them to at least tell us what these easements are that they require off of the existing pavement that's existing?
So the May 20th meeting, they said they were going to have some field work, survey work done to work on the easement areas. So we could follow up with them.
Would you please?
Yeah. I would guess it's going to take them a little bit of time to do that. But I'll certainly can ask.
But a question I have, and if you can ask them, and somebody in that organization must know how much they need off of the pavement in order to put up signals. That would be helpful to me.
Yeah, well, normally
If they
you want to
say
be 2
15
feet,
feet. I
yeah,
get
at
it.
least 2 feet behind for any obstructions.
Right.
And
Looks like they have more than that.
it's possible they have a large area blocked out on their plan for an easement. It's fairly large.
And am I remembering correctly that they are envisioning as many as 8 traffic signals?
Yeah, they say maybe 7, but that's a fair number.
Okay,
Yeah, so they had said 8 signal heads, multi-phase, because they have to be multi-phase because of the pedestrian walkway and because of the Sandcastle Winery driveway.
Pedestrian walkway.
Yes,
I think the driveway entrance to the
Yeah,
towpath.
for the parking.
yeah.
Mhm,
I think it can be for vehicles and pedestrians.
mhm. Okay.
Okay, Kurt, if you
So-
could try to find out a little bit more information, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So our next bridge update is on the Creamery Road Bridge. PennDOT had a meeting with township officials on May 28th. It was a virtual meeting to discuss their plans to replace the bridge that kind of connects Tinicum Township and Bedminster Township around Creamery Road and Fritz Valley Road over the Tohican Creek. And this is all on the west side of 611. Kurt?
I wasn't at that.
Oh, you weren't at that meeting?
No.
Okay, so this is a project that PennDOT has been considering for years now, many years. Last year, they invited the township officials and our township manager, Rich and I both went out with our former township manager to the site of the bridge on the Bedminster side. And I mean, no decisions were made, obviously, there. It was just a discussion to hear their explanation for why the bridge, in their opinion, needs to be replaced. We did have this meeting on the 28th. Were you on the call, Rich?
I couldn't make them.
Okay. Was I the only one on the call?
Probably.
I think I must have been the only one on the call for the township. And my recollection is that oh, that's right. There were a number, yes. My recollection is that PennDOT wants to replace the bridge. In their opinion, it is structurally not sound. They are, and I believe there's a recording of this meeting. Is that correct? Don't quote me. I'm pulling this out of my memory, but I believe we have a recording of this meeting. So if you are interested in kind of verbatim what happened, please see that link. It's on our township website. Just kind of my broad recollection is they are planning to replace the bridge. They are still in the design phase. They're of the opinion that this doesn't fall under kind of the within the typical Section 106 process, consulting party process, which applied to the Golden Pheasant Bridge. I think that's a question. I know that Kathy Auerbach has sent the township supervisors supporting documentation showing that the bridge is a historic resource within and adjacent to the township. So I think I'm not really sure what the point of the meeting was actually that we had with PennDOT, but because they didn't even have like a scope ready. They said that there are about 400 cars a day that cross the bridge. There's never been an accident. For some reason, this bridge is one that they want to replace. So I just want to, in terms of timing, they're still in the design phase and they are looking to not begin construction. I'm sorry, my memory is failing me. Not begin construction until 2025. Is that right?
I think from a prior meeting, their target was they were working on preliminary design through potentially the end of 2024. I don't think they were going to finalize the design until 2025 and then bid it, I believe, in 2026.
26. Okay. Kathy Auerbach she's a resident in the township who we've heard from already this evening in connection with the Irwin Cemetery, and she's extremely knowledgeable. Well, she is a historian and she's very knowledgeable in structures and particularly in bridges. And in the documentation that she sent to this full board on Saturday, I think it was, she included a historic resource survey form with a key number 131135, which recognizes that this name, the structure's historic name is Harple's Bridge. And I just want there are a couple phrases in this that I thought were really important. So when this form was submitted, it was maybe 10 years ago or so. Harple's Bridge was currently in service. It still is in service. It has an 18-foot wide deck and is signed for one-lane traffic. There are no weight or height restrictions. The road is a quiet rural road with roughly 400 cars a day, and that is still the number that PennDOT is taking into consideration. The overall integrity of the bridge from a 1932 deck replacement is very good. The original structure is from 1835. The bridge by age and design is exceedingly rare and is able to fully convey the original 1835 design concept, stone masonry characteristics, as well as the specific design details and engineering of the 1932 concrete deck replacement. Harple's Bridge is a dramatic and elegant complement to the surrounding heritage landscape with substantial tracks permanently conserved. It contributes to the Lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River status, as well as to a potential designation of the Lower Tohickon Valley as a historic district with special emphasis on historic ford and bridge crossings. So this update is simply to let the community know that PennDOT had invited us to attend this meeting. And we don't have a design from them. They're still working on that. We do recognize the input that we've received from a community member regarding this resource, and we are monitoring the situation.
I think, Ellen, there'll probably be several more meetings before anything is getting even close to being final.
Yeah, I would hope so.
How does Bedminster fit in all of this? How have they indicated how they feel about it? Is anybody aware of that?
I don't remember.
That's it.
I do remember that there were Bedminster officials when we were out there a year ago, but I
Yeah.
don't remember
On the
actually
virtual
being
meeting.
asked like
Yeah.
what we were.
No, the virtual meeting.
Oh, at the virtual meeting? I
Did
don't
they have
remember.
any input? or-
I don't remember. Okay, Kathy, good timing. So now this is our first round of public comment. And if you would like to make a public comment, we would invite you to come up and sign your name and state your name and then make your comment. We ask that your comments be limited to 3 minutes. Yes.
Catherine Auerbach, Center Road, and thank you for your efforts also on following through with headquarters and trying to get everything moving along with that and with Golden Pheasant, and hopefully maybe not that many signals. We weren't quite envisioning that dramatic of a scene. And I would ask maybe that you reach out maybe to our legislators and say, why do you have to take the burden of a state road and signaling on a state road? I think that's very unusual situation for the township to have to be engaged in. With the Creamery Road project, I would also ask if you would request to the National Park Service, I'm developing a letter now, as well as to PennDOT to thoroughly do an assessment of the history. And obviously, when they pick a consultant, they will get the answer that they want. But reaching out to the National Park Service as well for the proper assessment of the bridge. In the meeting, it was noted, of course, that there's no restrictions on the bridge weight-wise, that there had been testing done, compression testing and things of the stone substructure, and that most of that bridge was fine. They said, I think 2 piers might have been something that might need a reconstruction. So that's a $5 million project for actually just appropriate repairs and rehabilitation of a bridge that has great significance. There's only 2 left in the county, maybe in the state, and maybe in the nation. No one has ever brought up another pillar bridge, and I've spoken about this in many areas, pillar being like 25-foot span, multiple spans. So it really is a good image and a dramatic image of how we built our country, how we got from here to there, and other bridges have supplanted that. So I ask you to make that request to the National Park Service as well, because that is serious that they did not provide appropriate, they had used an old survey for their assessment. That the bridge is structurally not horrible at all. Their testing actually was surprising and as far as its capabilities. It has no restrictions now. To me, it has very good sight distance. They were trying to say something like that. Had bad sight distance, but it seems pretty good. No accidents. So this looks more like a quality rehabilitation and correcting maybe drainage issues around. If they did a new bridge and lessened the number of spans, that would increase the depth of the beams significantly. So it would have to have a much higher approach going up on the bridge, and that impacts all the wetlands around there. So a new bridge would have a phenomenally large impact in the landscape. The curious thing is that a half a mile upstream is a full capacity modern bridge. And less than a mile downstream are two full capacity modern bridges. So there are alternative pathways that allow this to be maintained and support the wild and scenic designation that we have. So I ask you to stand firm, because that was a unusually weak and non-informative presentation that they gave with no specifics, really. And it was like, okay, that's interesting. But the 106 process should be engaged because of wild and scenic status and the age of the bridge. And additional investigation for historic assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Diane.
Diane Allison, Irvin Road, Tinicum. Good evening. I'm going to read my notes so that I am sure not to take more than my 3 minutes. I'm here tonight to address something that's come to my attention regarding our Upper Bucks Regional Emergency Medical Services, and related to that, the fire or EMS tax. First, the EMS issue. I've learned that our EMS is facing a substantial shortfall, which could cause the reduction of staff and stations, which will substantially affect the response time. This is and should be a huge concern for our community. One of the issues that has been brought up repeatedly regarding Headquarters Road Bridge is concern about emergency response time. Well, this situation is guaranteed to increase response time dramatically. The EMS board is volunteers, but our EMS professionals must be paid as mandated by the state. Funding has always been difficult, but they received monies from a foundation for many years, but that has ended. Then there was the money from the Recovery Act, which also has ended. And there are subscriptions we are asked to pay voluntarily each year, which I hope all of us do, but do not nearly cover the costs. And so there's a huge shortfall. Townships within the service area contribute varying amounts, and we have not been particularly generous in our funding to the Upper Bucks Regional EMS. And it's time to step up and help close the gap. Our history of contribution is, in my mind, fairly dismal. Subscriptions that I hope we all do not cover the costs. Responses to funding letters from fire or EMS result in only about a 15 to 20% response. Thankfully, the departments don't respond only 15 to 20% of the time. Thankfully, we have these volunteers. I would ask you to do your homework on our township contributions and do what needs to be done now to get our share where it should be. This is the primary work of government, the health and safety of our residents. Let's not skimp on it. Let's not kick this can down the road just because we don't want to increase taxes. All costs increase. The funds needed to cover these costs must increase as well. Municipalities have a fire EMS taxing capability with a cap of 3%. What is our current percentage? When has it increased? How much of it's going to fire? How much to EMS? I've been told we have a 1% tax. However, I've not noted a fire tax listed on my tax bill. But we have stayed at the very bottom of what we can put in place if we are at 1%. And we all know costs have gone up. We can raise the fire tax up to 3% by adding 1% per year for the next 2 years. I would advocate making up the rest from the general fund until we get to where we should be. Our firefighters, then, they're giving of their time for training and firefighting, and yet we seem to think it's okay to make them stand on the street with a boot asking for change to help in the funding. Again, there's only a 15 to 20% of households that respond to the fundraising letters they send out. Seriously, I will only speak for myself, but I think we can do better. I know you cannot answer all my concerns this evening, but I would ask that you would address this at your next meeting, the work session on June 18th, and report back at the next meeting what you have decided to do to assist maintaining our EMS and fire services. I've spoken to the folks at the EMS board and the regional fire director. I'm certain they would be glad to come and tell you what they need from us at that work session. A final thought, the EMS and the fire are not in competition. We need both. Let's step up and do our part to fully fund these services and show our volunteers and our residents that we care. Thank you. Sorry, I've run out, but I'm volunteering as a bat surveyor.
Oh, Diane, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'll be right while I talk, because I've got 3 minutes. My name's Paul Coleman. My property abuts the Creamery Road Bridge on the northeast corner. The PennDOT's presentation the other night was laughable in a lot of ways. My biggest concern to start with is they're stating that they've reached out to the community and the neighbors. I've been there almost 10 years. There's been no contact to me or my neighbors that I've spoken with. Spoken with 7 of the families that are right there abutting contiguous with that bridge, because there's a corner, it's more than 4. And maybe there was contact like decades ago, so they didn't contact the current residents. People on the Bedminster side of the bridge, there's a concern of the farmer that wants to get his hay baler across the bridge. It's not wide enough currently for his hay baler, which has to go across this bridge maybe 4 times a year. So that's their pressing priority. A guy named Schmidt is the farmer. And he's got leased property on our side of the bridge. The neighbors do have priorities, which are not part of PennDOT's plan in any way. PennDOT, their engineer stated that he's never seen a bike on that road, or pedestrians for that matter. And PennDOT's plan is totally to go from a 1-lane bridge to PennDOT's classic straight cement 2-lane bridge. So the neighbors are definitely not happy with the current development. We ask that the township take a process that will engage the current neighbors and help us all to find a solution to this. It was also notable, PennDOT, one of their primary motivations on this bridge is safety. And yet they said right in their presentation that there hasn't been a significant accident on that road in over a decade. So it's a big safety concern. I could keep going, but I'll stop. Just make the request that we find a way to engage the locals on this matter and try not to change the nature of a country road.
Mr. Coleman, I visited your property. You see flooding issues already on your property, correct?
Yes, that's one of the concerns came up in the meeting.
Okay. So, okay, well, as Ms. Auerbach said earlier, an increased burn would just exacerbate those problems then.
Yeah, the image I've got would do that. Particularly the flooding happens on the northern side of the bridge. And it's the approach road to the bridge. Basically, the bridge goes uphill.
Yeah.
So it's where you start that hill. And the more solid hill that's put there, the more there's going to be backed up water and reduction of flow.
There's not a whole lot there. Because I've been over it on my bicycle dozens of times. So
Invisibly.
somehow I got by there without notice. Maybe I'm going too fast. I don't know.
I suggested in my comments that their engineer probably isn't there on nice sunny weekends.
Yeah, or evenings or anything like that. Yeah. Okay, thank
So
you.
we've just made a request.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Can you give Melissa your contact information? Thanks. Any further public comment? Yes, come on up, please.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Sandy Lisa. Excuse me, I'm a resident on Hollowhorn Road. And first, I just want to thank the supervisors for your service to our community. I've done this in prior years in another community, and I don't think people realize all the hours that are behind what comes in preparation for the meeting. Excuse me. I'm here because basically for the issues that Diane Allison raised. I was shocked to hear that our volunteers who are here to help us save our lives are not fully funded. It was a big shock to me. And then when Diane mentioned that she was going to come, I said, well, I'm going to step up and lend my support. I don't think this is something that you can let go and, oh, we'll fund a little bit over 3 years. I mean, to what she said, you need the people there, you need their training has to be fully funded, their equipment has to be funded. And I know there are some grants that can be secured to help that. And there's some other government funding, but it's absurd to think that that have to go around and have these fundraisers to help us and our families. So I urge you to, whether there's a little task force or there's some way that we can shine a light on this and get the funding up as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank
think
you.
important to note also, okay, thank you. I've been to the PRFC, which is the Palisades Regional Fire Company meetings, and the whole thing, the whole notion of these fundraisers that they used to do, the spaghetti dinners and breakfasts and things like that, are becoming a thing of the past now. There's budgets they have not just for money, but also for time for volunteers. And when you have a volunteer, there's only so much time they're going to put into this particular activity, being a firefighter, what have you, or ambulance person. And when you start demanding their time to be spent on spaghetti dinners and such, then they don't spend the time on the training that they need. Something goes away. So they no longer are looking at things like spaghetti dinners and things like that to raise funds. So just be aware now this is another funding gap that they have. They don't make any money on them to start with, not a whole lot anyway, by the time they get done purchasing the materials and so forth. So yeah, it's incumbent upon us as a society, as a community, to support these volunteer fire companies as if they were a not volunteer fire company. And we don't want to have a situation where we don't have a volunteer fire company, because you think your taxes are high now. I think we're at 1%, maybe 1.5% fire tax in this township right now, which is, I think, the lowest of those who contributed to PRFC. A little embarrassing to hear that at a meeting, but that's what I heard. So, it's going to be a lot higher than that if they have to go professional. So just be aware. We start with union contracts and mandating that they get supplied by us. They pay for their own stuff. I mean, really, there's a lot of things that go into this. We need to be aware as a community that we're going to have to do our fair share. Just be aware. Okay.
And I want to thank Diane and Sandy for coming in and raising this issue. It is an important one. It is one that I think about all the time. I cringe when I see our volunteer firemen in the road with a bucket collecting change. I cringe. Their time is valuable, and it shouldn't be spent standing in the road asking for donations. When they come in and volunteer their time, it should be training or on calls, or being recognized by the community for the fabulous job that they do. I will say that there is a forum this Saturday called, I think it's titled Answering the Call. It's from 9 to 11. It's for elected officials. So we have all been invited. I'm planning on attending. It's somewhere in the middle part of the county. But it's a forum where elected officials have been asked to gather to hear directly from fire chiefs throughout the county and the crisis that, is on the horizon. And I think John is absolutely right. If elected officials are required to provide this service, and we are able to do it now and have been able to do it historically due to the generosity of volunteers in our communities. I'm not just speaking for Tinicum. I mean, this is, it's statewide, and I'm sure it goes in many parts of the country as well. There has been a drastic decline, a steady decline in volunteerism generally. And I think our volunteer fire companies have really been seeing that. It is there's a huge difference between providing our volunteer fire companies with the funding that they're asking for and paying for a paid fire company. That there's a huge difference in terms of the impact to our residents and the taxes that would be required to support, you know, either of those things. So thank you for bringing this issue up in this meeting, and it is something that we will pick up and discuss in earnest. Anything else on that? Yes. Thank you.
My name is Victoria Black.
Hold on, just, yeah.
I live at 200 Headquarters Road. I'm a volunteer for Delaware Valley Fire Company. Sorry, I get emotional when I talk, so just bear with me. We try our best. We work our hardest. We're volunteers. We don't get paid. EMS, we have a QRS that we do quick response systems in our township, both Palisades and Del Val. And the upper box is a paid facility. I mean, everybody can donate to them, but you got to talk to state. It's not just local. Like, it's state that you got to talk to, not just the township. It's something that not many people want to do. Nobody wants to volunteer. Us going out there is because we want to get new hoses. We want to get new gear. We want to get other things that we don't expect our township to always pay for, you know, and with the help of everybody else and individuals out there, it helps us. Golden Pheasant Bridge, that is a mess. We deal with that a lot, backing tractor trailers up, watching them collide into it. Yeah, something has to be done. Today there was 2 tractor trailers, again, going up and down the road. And we warned them, you're going the wrong way. There's tons of signs. They don't pay attention, I don't think. And if they do, they're just following the GPS. But that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Gittema.
So on the same topic,
Can you state your name?
oh, Steve Goodman. Is it possible that the volunteers, particularly something as urgent as a EMS or a fire department person, can get a credit on their property tax? I mean, it's is that, I mean, then,
Yep.
you know, that's a real contribution. That's the first point. Second one is, you know, these spaghetti dinners, I mean, I would attend one. I mean, I think a lot of people would if we had them. I mean, so I'm not saying that but maybe there's a way to get the schools or somebody whose property taxes are very high, right? To get the kids in the schools or the teachers or somebody to organize that so the EMS and fire department people are not the ones having to do the cooking and everything. Cause I agree with that. Why should they double dip on their time, right? But I think there's a lot of people that would participate in that if we just had such a thing. I mean, to me, it's a little surprising that, you know, for a little rural community like this, we don't have events like that. And, you know, I know my wife and I, we look around on weekends, like, what do you want to do, you know, locally, right? And I'm like, I don't know, are there any cookie sales, bake sales or whatever? No, this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We can only buy so much art, you know, there's plenty of art around here. So there's that. And then there was another point was oh yeah. The other one was, I thought was maybe if this board were to create like a suggest, because I agree with you, I don't want to be paying for a union regulated, you know, fire department. I mean, we got a good situation here if we can keep it. You know, a republic if you can keep it. And so we have a fire department if we can keep it. Maybe you guys could come up with a suggested amount, and it could even be uniform. It doesn't have to be based on acreage. It could just be, one house, and that number, if it was like, across the whole thing, if you look at that and say $200-300 per family, you might get 60%, participation. If we got a sort of a voluntary dunning notice, that avoids the, to use an unfortunate word, the dishonor of having to go out there in a bucket, but do it in an honorable way. It's like, that's on you guys to send it to us. And then I would just honorably write a check and put an envelope and then, and thank, and just thank the people that are doing this. No one wants to see this not work, I don't think. And
Right.
there just seems like there's a big gap between what we're trying right now and what we need to try, particularly since the other gap is up here with the, so I'm thinking there's there's at least 3 ideas and I just, there's probably 10 good ideas in this
Right.
room.
And the law does allow municipalities to offer a tax credit to volunteer firefighters. It's under Act 172. And the municipality can elect a reduction in the local EIT, which is the earned income tax, or it actually could be both, or a reduction in your municipal real estate taxes. And this has been discussed loosely. I think I've, with the previous township manager, I've discussed it. And I think some of the concerns or the questions have been, how would the township discern whether the volunteer is an active volunteer versus someone who's saying they're volunteer in order to get the tax reduction? Or if it is a retired person and we elect the EIT incentive, they won't benefit from that. Or if it is a younger person, the real estate reduction would not be an incentive because maybe they don't own property here. But I agree with you, Steve. I think that there are incentives that we can offer at the local level. We just have to figure out kind of what would that dollar amount look like in total for the municipality if we are offering these reductions in taxes as an incentive to our existing volunteer force and hopefully new volunteers. That will be part of the discussion.
Good. I don't want to belabor the point. We've been on this for a long time, but the PRFC has a system in place where they're developing these qualifications for a tax break. So there's a certain amount of time you have to spend, a percentage amount of time you have to spend on calls and things like that would qualify you for this tax deduction. And they would be the ones who would keep those records. And that's just a matter of us figuring out, what that is, what those parameters are. So that's being worked on, the tax break thing.
And the
Thank you,
spaghetti
Steve.
dinner could make more with me, not-
Well, again, they have trouble getting time and materials are expensive too for them. So-
Okay, any other public comment at this time? Seeing none. Under old business, we have items 1 and 2, and we have.
I can explain, yeah. So there was so these had to be submitted to the Bucks County Planning Commission. With the way the meetings fell, they meet once a month, we meet once a month. Well, we've had 2 meetings and they've had none in the last month. So we just haven't gotten a response back from them. So my recommendation is just to continue both of these until the July 2nd meeting at 7:30. That way we can have the report back from the Bucks County Planning Commission.
Which meets tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. Their meeting's tomorrow. We had met the first Tuesday, which was May 7th. So they meet the first Wednesday. So they met on the 1st. So they had actually met a week even before we began the advertising process for these. So you would just need a motion to continue both of these to the next meeting, July 2nd at 7:30.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Number 3, consideration by the board to review and discuss truck amenities at warehouses.
Yeah, this has to do with, Eleanor and I attended a webinar. And this is mostly based on the warehouse centric area up there in Lehigh County. But we do have a couple of properties here in this township that can accommodate larger warehouses, which will bring these trucks into the township. Larger, the 53-foot long interstate trucks. And in the areas of in Lehigh County, they've been having issues with these trucks ending up on residential streets, private property, parking overnight, idling. And many of the townships up there are beginning to require these warehouses to have truck amenities so that the way they stay on the premises of the warehouse. So things like electrical hookups, so they can hook up and run their HVAC systems and so forth off of electrical as opposed to running their motors all night long. Bathrooms, other facilities, parking facilities, and so forth, so that, again, they don't get onto our private properties and streets and parking all over the place. So this is something I think we should turn over to the planning commission, let them look at it and see if they want to add it to the warehouse thing they just did.
That works for me.
Fine.
Okay. Next is a consideration of a resolution to allow for the adoption of the Mission Square Retirement 457 Governmental Deferred Compensation Plan and Administrative Services Agreement.
I have a couple of questions. Terry, thank you for sending that over to me, by the way. On page 4 of 12, if everybody has that. Mission Square, is that the administrator? I just want to be sure I understand that. They're the administrator? Okay, and they do not render investment advice. Is neither the plan administrator nor plan sponsor. So that's a little confusing to me. They're not the administrator, or they are the administrator?
I believe they are. I'm not sure how, there's going to be other professionals that will be involved with there'll be other professionals that will be involved with the company, investment professionals and the like.
That work for Mission Square?
Yes.
Okay. So then the next part is in C, it says employer acknowledges and agrees that Mission Square does not assume any responsibility with respect to the selection or retention of the plan's investment options. Employer shall have exclusive responsibility for the plan's investment options, including selection of the applicable share class. So it really is the employer now that is responsible and gives direction on investments?
No.
Is that what that's saying?
No, that's not what, the mission folks will be offering let's say a menu, a fixed menu of investments. So you can't wing it and start investing in like Kodak stock or something odd. Here's what you got. They'll explain that to the employee. Here's what we have to offer. Then the employee can pick and choose from that.
Okay. So that's what that means.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially, if we wanted to switch that menu, we would have to make the decision, is what that's saying.
Got it. On the next page, and that's my last question, is under A, plant administration fee. Who's paying that?
Well, the township is not.
It comes from, so any of the funds invested, the fee comes out of the funds invested, just like a 401k or an IRA.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. So that was my only questions. Thank you.
And the resolution is, it's in our packet. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just looking for that document.
It's right here.
Okay, thank you. So I will make a motion to sign the resolution. To pass the resolution. So, yeah, so,
I'll second it based on what Terry had just given me, the information I had requested.
okay. Any comment? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, G5. Terry, would you kindly give us an update on the
G5.
2023 audit?
This morning, I received a draft of the 2023 audit. We'll be taking a look at that at some point in the near future, meeting with our auditor to see what other information they might need in order to finalize the document. And then we'll send that on its way to the Board of Supervisors for your review.
So it's your feeling that there is still additional information that they require?
Since it's a draft, that will be my assumption, yes.
Okay. But you haven't really read it yet?
No, I honestly did not, no.
All right. Number 6, update on PennDOT liquid fuels report.
Quickly, I had mentioned at our last meeting that the township is required every year to file with PennDOT what's called a MS 965. It's an actual use report. How did we spend our liquid fuels grant money from the previous year? And we were able to enlist the aid of a PennDOT accountant, PennDOT employee, actually, for no charge to the township to assist us in the preparation of the 2023 report. He has been in a couple of times. He had mentioned that he hasn't been able to tie up some loose ends for 2023 and 2022. The variance is relatively modest, between $5,000-6,000. He has since reported that he'll need to go back to 2021 and 2020 to see if there are some things back there that need to be tied up. He'll be in the office in a couple of weeks. I would hope that he would be able to, for his sake, really finish the job. As I reported, we already have our liquid fuels allocation. We receive about $265,000 and change from the state, and we use that for roads, road maintenance, and the like. So we have this year's allocation. It's just a matter of getting this loose end wrapped up, and it's just having to take a little bit longer than what we anticipated. So, but it'll be done shortly.
Okay, thank you. And number 7, overpayment of unemployment compensation insurance.
Yeah, just wanted to report to the board that the staff, our bookkeeper, was working with our payroll, trying to reconcile some entries, and came upon what has been the township unnecessarily paying the state unemployment compensation insurance tax. That's about 3.7% or so per employee. Some years back, you folks joined the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors Unemployment Compensation Trust Fund. That's a pooled insurance type program sponsored by the PSATC folks. And the idea behind that is quite simply to save townships and cities money. They can provide this insurance at less cost than our going into the state program, which is far less customized. What appears to have been happening is that we've been the payroll company has been dinging us to 3.7%, which is our share of the state, our share for the state program. And evidently we've been paying that for a number of years. Exactly how many, we don't know for certain. We think it goes back to maybe 2017-ish, 2018-ish. Don't hold me to that. We're trying to make our best guess. the problem is that, well, we are seeking a refund. So we are, as I've already started that process, made the application. Our financial advisor is assisting our bookkeeper in getting some of that money back, but there's a 3-year limit to how far back we can go. But that will end up being an amount of about $13,000 and change. So I just wanted to report that to you. That's the best we can do. We can't go back any, at least as far as I'm aware, unless Scott knows of something else that we can take advantage of. But it has been longer than the 3 years that we've been paying into it. They said we can go back 3 years. We're grabbing the 3 years and not arguing with them at this point in time. But I just throw that out there for you.
What are we doing currently?
It's off the books.
So we're in the PSATs program?
Yes, I'm sorry. More specifically, we remain in the PSATs program, as I would certainly continue to recommend that you do stay in that program. It is overall, it's a cheaper program, and we've gone from 3.7 and down to 0. In other words, we changed that particular entry within that payroll system to 0. So going forward, we're fine.
So we don't pay anything into PSATs for?
Yeah, that's separate though. That's a separate check that goes out.
So was that being paid in addition to the state?
Precisely.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah.
Since 2017 or 18.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been a while. Also, it appears we've been according to our financial advisor, Linda Major, we've been unnecessarily paying the federal unemployment tax, the FUTA, I believe is nicknamed. And that won't be as large of amount, but she's looking, we don't have to pay that as a governmental entity. It's not necessary for us to do that. She picked up on that and she's making application for reimbursement for that one. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Terry. New business, the discussion of the Wings and Wheels event at Van Sant on May 26th. I see Tom Martin here. Tom, would you like to come up and tell us about the event?
Sure. I'm sure most all of you know. So Wings and Wheels, the event that has been going on for years at Van Sant, occurred Sunday the 26th. So, and we planned for the largest attendance that we had ever had prior. Well, as many of y'all know, our attendance was far in excess of anything we had expected or relied on over there. And then with that, I will say Van Sant itself and the event was amazingly successful. You know, to put that many people in one place and get everybody out, and I've seen nothing but, you know, beautiful things, comments from folks that were there coming out of it without having any issues was great. However, me saying that, we have no interest in Van Sant at running any kind of events at this scale or anything else kind of going forward. I know we had some impacts with traffic, everything else. We were not prepared for that kind of full insurgence of people that, I mean, we're talking the highest number of show cars we've ever gotten was 200. And with no pre-registration, nothing, over 450 show cars showed up, plus all the people around. It was actually a decision was made about halfway through, like, do we just close the gates? And then if we do, where do these people go? So we literally had some local farmers' kids and stuff just on mowers, just getting it down just so we could get the people off of the roads around here. So that being said, with that, we don't want to continue any kind of events of this magnitude or anything else going forward. However, I did reach out immediately to the supervisors and stuff after and said, look, we don't have any interest in continuing at this kind of scale going forward. However, with a funding gap and things like that, I had mentioned if you wanted to leverage the draw that this place has around the entire county and everywhere else, I know a place that might make a little bit more than a spaghetti dinner, if you're interested. You know, with that, I'm sure there were, you know, other complaints and issues, and we had a couple of meetings with the county and everybody else. And we had gone through many steps ahead of this, trying to prepare for what we thought were the maximum number of people going to be there, to include things they've never done before. And also, by the way, as I just go on talking, I'm the new airport manager for Van Zandt. I just recently stepped into that role. Van Zandt, I think, has been, in the way it operates, a bit of a black hole in the township for a while. However, I'm the airport manager. We operate the airport. There was a different entity, that Bird of Paradise, that's actually been the commercial flight ops out there for going on 12 to 14 years and has run this event for the whole time up through there. So, it was kind of continued as planned, and I just happened to step into this huge explosion that just happened. That being said, there were numerous, flights around. We had tons of traffic trying to get everybody off the road. We had inquiries from people about some of the aircraft and one thing and another. There are currently, so we don't control, there was no air show or anything like that put on. We don't necessarily control how people, the same way, leave in your house. With that, there is currently a FAA investigator assigned for some of the events that may taken place, and that is being reviewed, and that's a big deal that I don't have any visibility into. And we cooperate with them totally, and this is an amazing place where, the Smithsonian literally comes to us to get airplanes rebuilt in the past. And tube and fabric biplanes have flown over Bucks County since literally World War II. And it's this amazing place that's stuck in time. And I will pitch, if y'all are out there, we have a women's event coming up that's sponsored by an international women's organization and stuff, that capped at 30 participants for that. But yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or discussions to go along with this,
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And I will just acknowledge that, after some of us received some messages from residents about the event on Sunday, Tom reached out to me on his own, and by Friday we were on a call with Bucks County Park and Rec, because the airport is a county park, as well as the Bucks County Airport Authority. I think John was also on the call, but I personally, I think Van Zandt Airport is an absolute gem in our community, and there's really nothing like it that I've ever seen. And I can appreciate that there might be kind of an operational gap there, that would, where you would want to be hosting events to close that gap. I would hope, what I propose is for us to ask our planning commission to look at a special event ordinance. We don't have one in this township that would apply to very large events like the one that Van Zandt had. And I think through that process, and through conversations with our emergency responders, we might be able to find a really kind of clear path forward. So that's what I propose.
I think there's a happy medium here that we can arrive at. This township hosts a lot of large events. We have a big bike ride in the fall. We have the art festival. We have polo. So it's not like this is the only thing that's big in the township. And with good planning and proper scale for that particular location, I don't see a problem with having events there. We don't have a good, clear way of finding out, though, when an event like this is going to happen, except voluntarily if they decide. So that's the intention of any kind of ordinance, is to set up a procedure whereby somebody like the airport would have an event, they put an application, this is what we expect 4,000 people, whatever, so we can all plan together to make sure that we don't have any issues. I think that's what happened. You got surprised, and these things happen, but now we know we got to plan for this. And in the fall, I think last fall, the car show was bigger than expected also. So clearly your message is getting out there that this is a place where these kinds of things are going to happen. And it's just a matter of trying to to get it in, get it into hand, and I think everything will be fine. It's just a matter of all of us working together to get it right.
Yes, and I mean, really, we don't actually like.
Tom, sorry, can you come up to the microphone? It's for the folks who are joining us from home.
But no, and utilizing those events because it does, we do rides, everything else, and that helps close the gap and hold it over, especially through like winter and all that kind of stuff. We don't actually, because it is a park, so public comes in free, all that kind of stuff. However, leveraging that and working with the parks too, to do, maybe shifting the fire department stuff over where we have the better venue. And then, they can utilize that for fundraising because we don't make anything off of that at all. And I think even running donations in a situation like that, just given the scale and the type of people, it's a whole bigger animal.
Mhm. Great, thank you. So are we in agreement that we'll send it to the planning commission? Okay, great. Number 2, under new business, the countywide Act 167 Stormwater Management Plan. Terry, did you want me to speak to this? Okay, so due to the countywide Act 167 Stormwater Management Plan update, it is mandated that each municipality designate a point person to represent the township or the municipality and participate in upcoming WPAC meetings, which is Watershed Planning Advisory Committee meetings. I think we have so we have to designate someone to represent the township at these meetings. Scott, do you know what other municipalities are doing? I have a couple of ideas. I mean, we have 2.
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I think most of you that have probably been doing either the township manager or like a planning director type position.
Mhm.
Maybe some have been doing the township engineers, but we haven't been involved in any of those discussions.
Okay, so I mean, we have 2 volunteers who are very actively involved in our groundwater management committee. So they come to mind. Kurt?
I was going to mention that I am attending on at least behalf of one other municipality.
Okay.
And what the plan is, there's 9 separate, I believe 9 separate watershed regulations in Bucks County.
Mhm.
And this is through the Bucks County Planning Commission and their committee, where they're looking to consolidate all those plans into one document. And there is an upcoming meeting, I believe, either later this month or early next month
That you are already going
that
to.
I'm signed up for.
Okay, would you like to be our
Yeah, if we could, I could probably split.
Kurt's our
a representative? Okay, terrific. Do we need a motion for that, Scott?
No, this is an administrative
Okay.
matter, so
Thank you, Kurt.
Terry or Kirk can just report it to them when needed.
Okay. So Dublin Borough has asked for approval for the assistance of any available fire police personnel for traffic control at the Dublin Volunteer Fire Company Firemen's Fair. This event is scheduled for July 12th to 13th and July 16th through the 20th. And normally what we do is we approve this request if the personnel is available. And we'll just note that there is a partial overlap with our with the
Arts
Arts Festival, the Civic Association's Arts Festival, which is July 13th and 14th. And I know that they are there for that event. So I'll make a motion to approve if available. And maybe we can just let Dublin know that it's unlikely they will be for the first portion of this fair.
Second.
Okay. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item is further consideration and review of survey and or parks development. We discussed it at the last business meeting, the first business meeting in May, and then it came up again at the work session that we had in May. Specifically, what does the township, what does the board want to do with the 2 township parks that we have? The one township park is a small park called Four Brooks Park, and that is on the south end of Cafferty Road. There's a tennis court there and a small basketball court. The other park is, and the tennis court has a partial chain link fence around it, but it's kind of open on the sides. So unless you're really good at tennis, you're doing a lot of ball chasing. The other park is the Tinicum Township Community Park, and that is behind Cooper Mechanical off of 611. And that had formerly been a mini golf and driving range. And there's kind of some of the structure and elements of the kind of past that remains within the park. And there's also a half-mile walking trail. So we have been kind of kicking around what we'd like to do with our parks in terms of maintenance or improvements. One of the considerations was a survey. This was a consideration that was presented by the Township Park and Rec Board, was to somehow communicate to our residents a survey and invite their responses so that our decision-making can be informed by what the community is looking for. And we haven't really landed on what that survey looks like, how it would be distributed. So maybe we start there on the survey.
Well, we need to do some more work on that. What are we going to do about a survey? How is it going to be administered? How is it going to be sent out or get response that we're looking for? So I think we still need to discuss a little bit more and come up with a plan. And I think we should meet with the Park and Recs Committee and ourselves.
Did you go to that meeting after our last meeting? Okay. And what was discussed?
They want to go through it more themselves on the survey itself. So I think it's best if we all meet with the Parks and Rec Committee and see what they're thinking and get them to, or at least understand what it is that we're thinking and try to come up with something that we can present to the public, and then we can move forward.
Okay. When did they next meet? Do we know?
Fourth Wednesday, isn't it?
So there's a meeting in June.
Do you have the date of that,
The
Melissa?
28th.
Or no,
The when?
yeah,
It's what?
the 12th of June.
It's Thursday.
For Park and Rec?
It says Park, June 12th. So Park and Rec should be on it's a Wednesday.
I thought it was Wednesday.
Okay, well, that would be next. That would be next Wednesday.
What time is that, Melissa? 7:30,
I
7?
think it's at
7 o'clock?
On the 12th.
I'm available for until 7:45.
I'm fine. 7 o'clock on Wednesday, the 12th. Is that correct?
They start at 7 now, right?
Okay.
So it used to be like 8 o'clock, which was about when I'm ready to go home.
So I'm happy to meet and attend that meeting. I've been giving some thought to how a survey would be distributed, and I'm not inclined to do a paper survey that is mailed to every house. I just don't see I just don't see that the cost would be justified. I do value receiving as wide and broad input from the community as we can get, but I would like to do that in a cost-effective way. So, any thoughts on that?
Well, I believe in a paper survey because the one that they did prior years ago got a response of 75 residents. 100 people responded, 75 were Tinicum residents, 25 were not. And that's not really indicative of the population. So if you put it on the website and ask people to respond that way, we might get 125 response, and maybe 100 of them will be Tinicum residents. I think a paper survey, I think historically shows that you get maybe about a 30%, and we have 2,000 households. That could be 600 respondents.
And the survey that was done previously was electronic? Okay.
So we want to get a representative sampling of what it is the residents are looking for, not for a select few that might want.
Sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
course.
What would it cost?
I don't
Did you
know
look
the
into
actual
it?
cost. I think Anita had once given us some numbers on when they mailed out the township newsletter.
Mm.
But there's some bulk rates that we had.
So different, but I
Mhm.
believe it was around 3,000.
But this would have to be
This would be
also a return.
different.
It had to be a
Yeah.
return. So we need to talk to the post office, and I
Mm-hmm.
have no problem meeting with the post office and asking what kind of cost would be involved.
Mhm. John?
I don't know. I'm interested in spending 3,000 on it, to think about it.
You know what, I made a misspoken. It might have been, we were budgeting 3,600 and it was more than half of that for that one thing.
Let's see what the cost would be. Because we're gonna be talking about sending it out postage, which I
Mhm.
guess you can do bulk mail. I don't know, you have to do first class to send it out. You have to include the envelope and I
Could be a
guess,
trifold. They fill in the trifold and then they just back it up again and send it out. But let me,
Yeah.
why don't you let me find out what the rate would be from the postal service for something like that? But the cost of this might be money well spent, considering we might wind up spending a whole lot more money on a park that quite frankly, not everybody in the community wants.
Mhm. Well,
I don't know. I found I found people who want it, but they don't like the way it is right now. So we're gonna
Mhm.
find that out too.
That's right. That's what a survey. will
Yeah,
do.
they don't like the dilapidated buildings and the functionality of it is questionable. And that's what I found when I was out last year. There was a lot of people who would use it more, but it's just not really giving them anything to use.
That's what a survey will do.
Yeah. So there's,
I'm wondering if PSETS has any recommendations for maybe an alternative that we're not yet considering in reaching a wide swath of the community. I know oftentimes at the PSETS conferences, they have presentations by various park and rec committees from different municipalities across the state. So we can look into that. We also have a specific request from a member of our Park and Rec regarding improvements that have been identified as needed for the small park, the Four Brooks Park. And there were,
I didn't get that.
did you
No.
get that?
So what are we
Was that the one
talking
from
about?
Eric?
Not on the agenda. I don't even know what it is we're talking about.
Well, it is on the agenda, the
What-
basic
what
maintenance
park?
of properties.
so if the one from Eric,
Yes,
is about the fence.
it does include the fence.
Okay.
We all received the quote to complete the fence around the tennis court and to enclose also the basketball court.
And what was that? I mean,
I think it was,
That's what I couldn't see. I couldn't find the amount in there. I was looking for that.
okay, give me 1 second, I'll pull it up. The fencing quote was from in the amount of $8,515. And I thought everybody was copied on this email.
well, the emails that we're getting, I think I mentioned that the last time, Terry. Sometimes I get them from the township with that earth link that we have, and sometimes I don't. You know, so I don't know where we're at with that.
And I
We
can't,
are moving to another provider at some point in time, and I tasked at the board's direction. I tasked our IT people to do that, so I haven't heard back from them, but they know that it's gonna take, by the way, it will take some time to do
Mhm.
that.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Takes time.
Earthlink who we now have.
Right.
They're in South Africa, they're in a number of different places, so, I've always found it challenging to get an answer from them or to do anything. So I suspect that will happen with, our IT people as well. So be patient.
But our IT people, I know I'm getting off track here, but our IT people are looking at not using Earthlink, setting up something new. So they don't need Earthlink. They don't need to
Correct.
call South Africa or
We
anything.
need to, no, they don't, other
Okay.
than there might be something that they need from them going forward. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Probably like a data transfer or something.
Yeah,
Something.
I think we'll need that.
It's not my area of expertise.
I wish they were only in South Africa and not here. 'Cause I don't know who's getting the emails. I mean, if I get one from you, I don't know who else is getting it. It's like, it doesn't show a list of recipients. other than-
Sometimes I get emails and everybody's listed on it. Sometimes I don't get any of them.
Well, I missed the one that 1 month, I didn't get all of the packet
Mm.
for the meeting, so it's just, yeah.
Okay,
it's a
so
shoot.
are we inclined to take any action on item H4? Or do we just want to all attend the next Park and Rec
think-
and have a fuller discussion?
My vote is to the next Park and Rec meeting, which is next week. And have a
Yes.
full discussion.
Okay,
See if they got as far as I know, they were still working on their survey,
okay.
the items on it, so. Last I talked to Eric.
Number 5 is consideration of the stormwater facility operations and maintenance agreement and the declaration of resource protection easement for Mr. and Mrs. Schwarzkopf on at 80 Stagecoach Road. This is not. Scott, do you have anything on this?
No, just real quick. This is they have a vacant lot right now. They're developing it. The ultimate goal is for a single family dwelling.
Mhm.
But they sort of need access to it. So they're doing a driveway. The zoning officer, our engineer did reviews. Everything came back ready for the agreements because they are putting in the driveway. It's impervious surface. So they will be doing some stormwater management facilities this round, as well as any future single family home construction that will be doing more as well. So this is just the next step in the approval process for them.
Excuse me, I don't have a problem with this, but Kurt, I gotta ask you a question. This is a NPDES permit? Is that what this is?
No, I don't.
Stormwater?
I don't believe it was over an acre of earth disturbance. I think because I believe they were just doing the driveway with the stormwater facility.
Okay, so the driveway is a simple thing. They just come in and they make a permit application and off it goes, assuming the property is big enough. If you support a driveway, that's easy. But why would they have to come from the board and ask for this stormwater?
Well, so the stormwater management ordinance requires when you have to install stormwater management facilities to offset the impervious surfaces that you are installing, you're installing a stormwater management system. And this is an operation and maintenance agreement where the property owner is agreeing to maintain these systems, and this agreement gets recorded so the future owners of the property are aware that this system exists.
I guess my question is this relatively new?
It's in the stormwater management ordinance.
So anybody who builds a house in this township has to have a stormwater management plan, right?
Anybody who builds a system under the current ordinance, and which is required by DEP.
Yeah.
This is in the DEP model ordinance for all municipalities that you need to have these agreements in place.
So anybody who builds a home in Tinicum today, or even a year or two ago, right? Is that how long this has been around?
Yes, since the ordinance has been in effect.
Anybody that does that has to have a storm water management system. Is that correct?
Only
Potentially.
it's the amount of the impervious surface determines.
There are some exemptions.
He's
and
on
there,
30, he's on almost 40 acres, isn't he? So I think impervious is not an issue there.
It's not a ratio, property ratio. It's just the general amount from DEP.
and the township ordinance doesn't actually
I'm not
have.
objecting to this. I'm
threshold.
just curious
Yeah.
why he even has to do this.
Well, he's installing a stormwater management facility.
Yeah.
Because the driveway,
But that's
by
in the plan.
the ordinance definitions and by the state definitions is going to cause an increase in runoff from
Yeah,
the impervious.
I get that, but that's generally included, or at least I know when I built my house, 2 of them.
Well, it is on the plan, but the ordinance requires an agreement to be in place to show that you're not just designing, you have to
So they
maintain.
never gave me an agreement.
And the township does have many agreements in place for other projects that were done by the prior solicitor.
All right, I'm sorry. I just didn't know why he had to go do this in order to have a management. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they've always been put on the agenda items or if they've been handled administratively.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it was always handled administratively. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
so I'll make a motion to authorize the execution of this stormwater facility operation and maintenance agreement.
I'll second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to regular business. We have received the minutes from the May 7th Board of Supervisor meeting, the May 21st special meeting of the board, and the because we were already there with the tape recorders on, the work session of that followed the special meeting on May 21st. We have all those minutes for approval. I will make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
We have the treasurer's report for April of 2024. Have we all reviewed that? It's going
Let
down.
me see yours. Because it's never identified as. That's, okay, got it.
That says I too.
Yeah.
Terry, could you answer a question that I have on the treasurer's report? If you look at the third page and it has the escrow fund, Headquarters Road Bridge, and that's the interest earned, if I understand correctly, 26.79 on the $1 million that's in that escrow account for the Headquarters Road Bridge. Is that correct?
Hang on for a second. Help me out.
Page 3, it's not identified as page 3, but it's the third page and what I did receive in an email. It's go to the bottom, it says escrow fund, Headquarters Road Bridge.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, that would be the interest that we earned for not quite a month, I would say.
Got it. But my real question is, when you look at the disbursements, if you go to disbursements and you see on disbursements for the escrow account. Okay.
Gotcha.
Go to disbursements, escrow account, which is, I think, the last page. It shows some debits of, varies in numbers, but there's a $9,991 debit, I think. Says debit.
What you lost? What page are we on?
Okay, again, there's no page numbers on these things, so.
I think I know the
This
issue.
page on the disbursements journal, we have
It says
page 2. It's on the
one,
top.
actually.
The
It says
page.
page 1.
Okay,
And at the top of it, it says cash disbursements journal.
right.
And then it has over on the right-hand side, which is wrong, I think, 2022 escrow account. It should be 2024.
All right. I'm escrow. I'm clearly not on the same page that you're on right now. Are you in is this still the audit report or is this the disbursements? Excuse me, sorry.
Oh, it's up here.
So Rich is asking about the 9,000
Oh,
change.
and so-
9,000, because that's the larger number.
You're talking about what it says Wood Tiger.
Yeah.
There's actually another small escrow
So
that
you have
we
two
originally,
escrows.
Yeah.
well, yeah, there's one is the original one that was set up about
Mhm.
whatever, X
With
number
about
of months ago.
$200,000.
Is the,
The 800-pound gorilla is the $1 million
yeah,
one.
no, I got that. Can I have that back, please?
Sure.
But where is in the treasurer's report is that $9,000 off of this? off of that treasury.
I'm not sure the treasurer's report, let me see the treasurer's.
They won't
report.
show that?
I'm not sure if that will show that, no. Not with that degree of specificity, Rich. I can double check all that for you and get back to you, so we can,
Well, yeah, so
yeah,
maybe.
sure.
Maybe the better way to do this, because I have a few more questions. Who do you suggest I talk to about it?
Talk to June.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so,
if I can add, though,
Mhm.
we've
I'm
currently
sorry?
earned at this point off of the $1 million that was provided to us by the Wood Tiger Fund, something in the order of $8,000 in interest. So we're at $1,008,000 at this point.
okay. And the $1 million contribution to the township is in a separate like bank account.
It is, right. It's in a completely independent, separate bank account at Penn Community Bank.
Mhm. And
You know,
they're,
very easy to track it independent. It's not
Right.
commingled with anything else, any of our other funds.
okay. And for the kind of the cost that we are paying in connection with the headquarters road bridge, kind of permit preparation work and the design work that the bridge engineer Doug Bond is doing. We are paying those costs out of a separate escrow account, not connected to that Penn Community.
At the
bank
moment,
fund.
yes, it's not to over confuse everybody,
Mhm.
but we're going to draw down that first, what we had. I think we originally had maybe 40,000 or 50,000 in that. Please don't hold me to that number. And that's where we've been that's where we've been spending everything from the engineering fees, et cetera, up until this point in time.
Mhm.
When we'll draw everything down out of that, close that, and then we'll go to this fund.
Okay.
This fund being the $1 million.
Okay, so the disbursement, the $9,000 disbursement from the escrow, that's from that smaller escrow account, not from the Penn Community
Like,
Fund.
I don't want to say 100%, but
Yeah.
that's what I believe.
Okay, great. I will make a motion to approve the treasurer's report for April 2024. May I have a second?
About second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed.
Number 3, payroll report. We have a payroll report for the period ending May 3rd, 2024 in the amount of $44,347.90 and the period ending May 17th, 2024 in the amount of $38,025.41. May I have a motion to approve these 2 payroll reports?
I'll move.
Any second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have the list of disbursements for April that we have reviewed.
Yeah.
Any questions about the disbursements?
Well, again, some of these questions that I have on the disbursements is something I'm going to have to pick up with June. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the disbursements from April of 24. A second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed?
I oppose.
Okay. Number 5 and 6, we are tabling these items for tonight. And we will take them up at what will happen at the end of this meeting. Instead of simply adjourning it, we will continue this meeting and it will be continued to Monday, June 10th at 9 a.m. Where we will address these issues at that time. That being issues 5 and 6 on the agenda, and 7, all 3 of them. Zoning hearing and conditional use application report. So we are in the past, for those of you who have attended in the past, At the end of the normal business, the board chair has historically read all the zoning hearing board matters and deadlines and what's coming up. We're not going to do that anymore. It's in writing. It will be made available to the public. It will be on our website. And so the only announcement is simply that the zoning hearing board application 2023-09 of Paul Weand has been denied by the zoning hearing board. We are at our second round of public comment. Okay, is there really no public comment? Okay, Paul, come on up. Hold on, wait. Just give it 1 second.
Could potentially, if you're gonna get prices on mailings, it could be a postcard that goes out, very little postage, saying, go here to fill out the survey. So you elicit the survey by mailing everybody, and then you may not get as many people as total paper, but you might get more.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Thing to
Thank you.
consider.
All right, any further public comment? All right, well, then I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
No,
Oh,
continue.
can, oh, I was thinking continue and I said adjourn. To continue the meeting to Monday, June 10th at 9 a.m.
We need a motion for that.
My motion, is that a
Oh,
motion?
Yeah, it's a motion. Yeah.
Okay,
So you'll need a
second?
second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Wow, not bad.
June 4th, 2024.
Well,
Yeah.